everyone, my name is Ryan Sutera. I'm an autism support speech language pathologist, and today I want to talk about Gestalt language processing. I actually have a video about this on my TikTok page at Support the Spectrum, and it received a lot of comments that I'm not able to answer all of them, so I wanted to take some time to go in and dive deeper into the topic, and I have the TikTok pulled up here, so let's review it and talk more about the subject. Really quick before we dive in, I want to reference all the resources that I pulled this information from, and if you want to learn more about it on your own time, I would recommend all of these resources. Did you know that 85% of autistic people are Gestalt language processors? And so the way they acquire language is completely different than analytic language processors. Analytic processors, which make up a majority of the population, learn language by acquiring one word at a time and then slowly add to the length of their utterances. And that's because they understand that each word has their own individual meaning. So I started off by explaining how 85% of the autistic population are Gestalt language processors, and then the majority of the population, non-autistic and also some autistic, are analytic language processors. So analytic language processors are known as word babies. They acquire one word at a time, start putting those words together into two-word combinations, and add to it with time, 3-word, 4-word. And actually the intonation and their ability to make their voice varied is acquired later in life. And that is completely different from how Gestalt language processors acquire language. Gestalt processors learn language by imitating and producing long utterances that they believe to have a single unit of meaning. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the unit of meaning. So for analytic processors, when they're acquiring that one word at a time, they understand that that one word has one meaning at the time. But for Gestalt language processors, they are imitating and producing these phrases, these utterances with really rich intonation, and they can have meaning to them that doesn't even apply to the situation, or if it does, it's not exactly what they mean. For example, I have a student who he starts to sing a Spanish song, perfect intonation, perfect pitch, the words are perfectly articulate, but the reason that he's starting to sing it is because he misses his mom. So he doesn't know how to say, "I miss mommy." So he starts singing this song. Whereas an analytic processor would learn the words for I, miss, and mommy, and would be able to put those things together, understanding that those 3 words have their own individual meanings, and together they mean this. But for a Gestalt language processor who's learning languages phrase first, they're going to start using their Gestalt and probably sing a song or say a phrase that they heard from a song or a book or a movie or something that they heard someone in their life say, and it's really up to you to figure out what that means. So that's why Gestalt language learners are known as intonation babies. The phrases and utterances that they say are usually very musical, usually very rich in intonation, and their ability to understand that single words have a single unit of meaning comes later in life. So for analytic language processors, the intonation comes later in life, and for Gestalt language processors, the understanding of one unit of meaning comes later in life. So it's very, very interesting. And just in general, Gestalt language processors can be very musical. And sometimes they have really perfect pitch. Sometimes they don't like it when other people say their Gestalts or sing songs to them because they're like, "Oh, you're not singing it right, you're out of pitch." I have one kiddo who, if I start singing one of his songs, he'll literally grab my lips and just be like, "Girl, cut it." It's so funny. So that can carry us into what is Gestalt. A gestalt is an intonationally defined short or long phrase or utterance, and it holds a larger meaning than sometimes what is let on, and you really have to figure it out. It can be kind of tricky, but we want to make sure that we support our kiddos as much as possible, not even just our kiddos, I shouldn't say that, support our language learners as much as possible and figure it out. So gestalts are usually echolalia or delayed echolalia. So immediate echolalia is you say something and the gestalt language learner repeats it right after you said it. Maybe they really liked the way it sounded, or maybe that's just them, processing what you said. And delayed echolalia, also known as scripting, is when they might bring up something that they watched a few weeks ago, the day before, something they heard someone in their family say, and they are repeating it, delayed echolalia, scripting it. But it still has meaning. This is so important. I did get a comment from an educator saying that, my student just echoes what I say. And yes, that makes sense. I understand why you would think, oh, he's just, saying what I say and there's no meaning, but there really is. They're saying it for a reason. It's either them processing it or they're trying to communicate something to you. I did receive a comment saying, does that mean that analytic is better? It seemed like you were saying analytic was better, and I really want to say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry if my video made it seem like that. That is not the case at all. It's just a difference. There's no deficit in either one. It's just a difference. It's very important to know how people acquire language so that we can help them acquire as much as they can and communicate the things they want to say. Let's keep watching my examples and we'll dive into that. What the heck does that mean? Here are some examples.
Play.
Good job using your voice. You want to play.
You want to play. Want to play.
Okay, so yeah, that was my example for analytic processing. I think it's pretty straightforward. He used one word. It's me in the video. They used one word and I added to it, I modeled a longer utterance to them so that they could gain meaning from those multiple words. Now we're about to look at the Gestalt language processor. And what I tried to do here that I don't think I made explicitly clear in this video is that I was trying to link the analytic language processor example to the Gestalt language processor example. So the analytic language processor in this example said play, and I added to it. And the Gestalt language processor says, let's play a game. So they both were saying play, but obviously the Gestalt language processor said a long utterance with lots of intonation. So you may think as a listener that language learner understands the word let's play a game, understands all those words, but they don't. I mean, not necessarily. In this example, they don't. To them, they said 4 words, but it meant the one. It just meant play. So let's keep watching.
Let's play a game.
Let's play a game. And I said, let's sing a song. So I presented a different kind of Gestalt phrase back to the language learner. This was just one example. If you really know that your Gestalt language learner loves songs, like it's something that I do in treatment a lot. So I just said, let's sing a song. Let's keep watching.
Let's sing a song.
Let's sing a song. Let's sing a song. Hickory dickory dock, the lion went up the clock struck 1, the lion went down. Hickory dickory dock, tick tock, tick tock. It's so funny because actually in the video I used a little tiger. I forgot to grab my lion, so somebody said, wait, isn't Hickory dickory dock with a mouse? And I was trying to exemplify mitigating gestalts, which we'll get into in a second. But even still, it wasn't a mouse or a lion, it was a tiger. But anyways, I present that Gestalt, it's a song. And the child then repeats. The line went down, hickory dickory dock, tick tock, tick tock. The child performs echolalia and participates and uses the exact intonation. And so in your head, if you're not aware of Gestalt language processing, you may say, oh, that child knows the words lion, clock, up, down, all that stuff. And that's not necessarily true. It really could just mean to them song or play. Like I said, I was trying to add a different word into the song that they already know to make the Gestalt varied. And this is a good time, I think, to go into the stages of natural language acquisition for Gestalt learners. The natural language acquisition for Gestalt language processors was a term that was coined by Marge Blanc, a speech language pathologist. She's one of the resources and references that I put at the beginning of the video. So these 4 stages of Gestalt language processing are things that the child will move through and progress with over time. I want to make it clear that they are not linear. Some students will be in multiple stages at one time. Some students will go back to a stage. So just so you know, it's not linear. It's not like the child will be stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. They might be in 2 and do a little 3, and then sometimes go back to 1. Not linear, just so you know. So stage 1 is communicative gestalts. This stage is when the child is using those intonation-rich, long gestalts, those long phrases. Some examples are, let's play a game, or it's time to sing. Or they start singing a song or start scripting something. So stage 1, communicative gestalts. Then stage 2, mitigating gestalts. So this is the mix and match stage. Some examples are, let's sing a song. It's time to play a game. So they took little parts of the gestalts that they had in stage 1 and started to mix them up with other gestalts that they have. This is a good sign. It means that they're understanding that they can break up their phrases into little chunks. And they might start switching up words and scripts, which is what I was trying to exemplify in my video when I changed the word mouse from hickory dickory dock to the word lion. Very easy way to start mitigating. You can take a gestalt that they love, one of the songs that they love, and place another character, another name in there. And at first they'll be like, whoa, what's this new thing? But they get used to it and they really love it. Stage 3 is isolation of single words. So this is the time when the child will start saying game, like song, game, Candyland. And you think, oh no, my language learner has started to say less words and they're not expressing themselves like they were before. But this is actually such a good sign. It means that they're understanding that now these words have individual meaning. So they can understand, instead of saying, let's play a game, which to them just meant play, now they're saying game. They think about their favorite game, Candyland. So even though that's only a 2-word utterance, it has way more meaning than their original just play. Let's play a game, play. If that makes sense, I hope it does, you guys. Okay, and then stage 4, the final stage, is beginning grammar. This is when meaningful verbs are being introduced. They might say things like sing, like sing, you sing song, you know, stuff like that. So that's when they can start learning to put the words together in a way that really makes sense. So yeah, here are all 4 of the stages. Again, they are not linear. Something that Marge Blanc likes to make so clear is that it is very important to keep the language learner in stage 3, even though you will be so tempted to kind of bring them back to stage 1 and have them produce longer utterances. You don't want to do that. You want to have them produce those single words. Even though it seems backwards, it's really what's best for them. So just a note. Okay, so now that we know the stages, let's talk about how to teach language in each stage. Stage 1, you want to model as many Gestalt phrases as you can. You want to give them intonation-rich, long or short phrases, even single words sometimes, that they can repeat, perform echolalia, script, but you want to do it in all the different kinds of communicative functions. I do have a video about communicative functions on my TikTok page if you'd like to go to that. But communicative functions, here are some examples. Asking questions, asking for help, asking for something, requesting, greeting, commenting, protesting, transitioning. So some examples would be a great Gestalt to model. I need help. Help me, I need help. Or I don't like that, go away. These are really important because those are situations that every language learner is in, and you really want to provide them with the model on how to say those things so that they can repeat it and use it properly and appropriately. Also, a lot of stage 1 is going to be doing detective work. So you as their support system will have to be a detective and figure out what their Gestalts mean. So I would definitely recommend observing the Gestalt language learner as much as you can, especially when they're playing in their own time. See what they're consuming, see what they're watching, see what they like to play with, and listen to what they're saying, because then you might be able to figure out what they mean in situations where it almost seems like they're talking about something that is not at all related. Another huge part of stage 1 is affirming their echolalia. They have meaning. It might seem random, it might seem like they're just repeating you, but a lot of what they say has meaning, and a lot of it is emotion based. So you really want to affirm, you want to validate. Oh my gosh, sorry you guys, the lighting is getting crazy. You really want to affirm, you want to validate their feelings, because a lot of what they say is emotion based. And you want to increase the level of trust. This is true for any language learner. You want to build such a rapport with them. You want to make sure they trust you. You are not going to do any learning if they don't. So just make sure that you're, as kind as can be, firm but kind, challenge them but kind. It's all possible. My cat has decided to join us. So let's go on to stage 2. How do we teach language when a child is in stage 2? Well, you're going to continue to model Gestalt phrases, but now you're going to model Gestalt phrases that start with things like I'm, let's, we're, what else? That's, and that's because these are Gestalts that will be easier to break down later once they get into stage 3. So you want to make sure you do that. So things like let's go to the park will later become go park. More meaning, less words, but you're still on a good track. Stage 3, remember stage 3 is so important. At this point, it's good to model 2-word phrases or single words, and you want to do this during open-ended play. Some structured activities are good at this point as well. One that Boho Speechy recommends on Instagram is doing a matching game, which is a great suggestion because it allows you to match up single words. Great modeling opportunity. And then finally, stage 4, you're going to want to model grammatical targets. One example is my one student, we're working on helping verbs. So it's a great time to start introducing some more verbs and work on it in isolation, and they can gain some understanding. Okay, let's continue watching the TikTok and see what we can learn. A good way to conceptualize this is to recall your language learning in school when you were learning a foreign language. Did you learn each individual word first, or did you learn common phrases like, can I use the bathroom, or where is the library? ¿Dónde está biblioteca? Another great suggestion from Boho Speechy. I love this way of conceptualizing Gestalt language processing because I think it's something that everyone can relate to. You learn phrases in the foreign language that you're learning before you learn anything else. Whether you're learning how to order something, saying, "Can I have?" or "Where is something?" You start with that, and then you break up the words to learn the question words, the verbs, the nouns, and all that stuff. So that is very much how a Gestalt language processor learns. I think the only difference would be adding that intonation in there. Okay, I think that's about it for the TikTok. That's all we're going to learn. I would love to go in now and answer some questions from the video that I was not able to get to. So let's do that. The first question that I want to address is, how does this affect reading? Great question. So I have some Gestalt language processors who read beautifully, but when it comes to comprehension of what they read, that's where it starts to become a little fuzzy. They are very reliant on the picture stimuli and the textual stimuli to answer questions or recall what they've read. Because they do not yet understand each word's individual meaning and how they come together to make sense. So I will say that once the GLP learner goes through all the stages and then learns grammar, their comprehension will greatly increase. Of course, you can still work on literacy. You can still read books. I make books and read books with my students that are very rich in experiences. And I find that that makes it a little bit easier for them to provide responses to questions or sequence events. I definitely would always recommend reading to kids or having them read, even if they don't fully know what's going on. Literacy always supports language acquisition. Another question I had was, can you be both? Can you be both an analytic language processor and a Gestalt language processor? And the answer is yes. Yes, you absolutely can. I would say that once the Gestalt language processor goes through all 4 stages, that they almost become like an analytic language processor because they're starting to break down the words and then build them back up again. But you also could just be both always. Some children can acquire language by learning one word at a time, but if they become dysregulated or if they have a big emotion, they will then kind of resort to their Gestalts. Their Gestalts make them feel safe. It's less processing for them. So yes, you absolutely can be both. Another question I got was, if I'm a Gestalt language processor in my native language, am I also a Gestalt language processor in other languages? I would say most likely yes. If you're having difficulty learning a foreign language, I would suggest listening to songs, watching movies in that language, and pick some phrases to memorize and use and then break down over time into individual words. It might help you. And the last question I'm going to answer is, what if you have a non-speaking learner that uses sign language, but you believe they're a Gestalt language processor? How would you support them? And that's a great question. Not only just for kids who use sign language, but also just non-speaking kids, period. How can you assist them? How can you help them? Sign language is wonderful. And if it's possible to model phrases or songs to them first, I would recommend that, of course. But my other recommendation would be to introduce them to a speech generating device if possible. It's a great way to externalize that language, just how sign language is an external language. The speech generating device is also externalizing language, and it has plenty of visuals. And another great thing about speech generating devices is you can program phrases right into it. So that's everything, you guys. Check the caption below for goals to use in speech therapy, as well as references for everything used here and resource links. Thanks for watching.